Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of my Godot game dev series. In the last video, we made this over here. A player that can move around with the arrow keys. If you did not check out the last part yet, the link will be in the description below. Make sure you check that out. In this video, we're going to be doing two things. First, I made a few sprites for the game, so the player will actually look good. So will everything else we add in the game later on. You can download it at this link, which will be in the description below. Once we import this into our game, we will then be adding coins. And I will be addressing what this warning box over here means. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be doing is importing those sprites in. So I'm going to right click on the res folder in the file system and create a new folder called assets. I'm just going to put all of my game assets inside of this folder. Okay. Now, once you've got this, click, remember, links in the description below. Click Edit Sprite. Now, if you want, you can change something. I'm just going to leave it as it is. My pixel art skills are not that good, so it's not going to be the best. But click Export. And I recommend changing the resolution to something higher, like 128. Keep everything else the same and click download. The sprite sheet file export. Okay, click download. Start downloading, click show in folder. I'm going to cut this, okay, and put it inside of my asset folder. Let me just open it up real quick. Assets, there you go. So I'm going to paste this into assets. And I'm going to rename this sprite sheet. So now if I go back to Godot, if I look inside of this assets folder, the sprite sheet should be there, as you can see. Now inside of the sprite, I'm going to drag spritesheet.png into the texture, and yeah, this happens. Now, we only want the first one to be shown, since that's our player. So, in animation, change the vertical frames to 3. Sorry, 3, yeah. And the horizontal frames to 2. And then make sure you're on frame 0. Now you can switch between different frames, like this. There's 4 frames in total. Okay, just make sure you're on frame 0. And I'm just going to be making this a tiny bit smaller, since I think it's a bit too big. So you know what, I'll leave it as it is for now. Okay. If I run the game now, click F6, remember? Yeah, it's definitely too big, but as you can see, everything still works. Now I'm just going to click the player. Under transform, I'm going to find scale. I'm just going to scale this down to 0.75. or 75%. Look at that. Should be a bit better now if I run the scene again. It's a tiny bit better. Maybe 0.5 might work. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so now we've got our player here. Okay, that's good. Now, before we move on to making the coin, what I just want to do is quickly animate this player and make it blink. So that's not hard at all. All I'm going to do is, as a child of the player, I'm going to add an animation player. Okay? Then click animation, new. I'm going to call this blink. Or player blink. Or can I rename this? Okay, blink. Now I'm going to select the sprite. And next to frame, I'm going to click this key button. Click create. Now I'm going to change the length to 2. And at 1.5, change the frame to 1. Key that again. And at 2, I'm going to change the thing back to 0. Frame back to 0, click key. Now click Shift D to run the animation. The player should blink now. Okay, make sure it's on looping. Let's run it again. Okay, the player's eyes are closed for too long, so zoom in. Timeline with the zoom keys. Like this. And I'm gonna move this one over to here. I think that's good. Okay, so now we have a blinking player that's working. You can stop the animation here. Click on this button. This is the autoplay button. So now the minute we run the game, the player should start blinking, as you can see. Okay, so now we have a blinking player. Let's add the coins that the player can collect. So to do that, we're actually going to be adding a new scene. So click this plus button next to our world scene to add a new scene. Click custom node. This time add an area 2D. Okay? Double click it to rename it and call it coin. And add a child node to the coin that's a sprite. Drag the sprite sheet. Oops. Drag the sprite sheet in. There you go. In animation, vertical frames 3, horizontal frames 2, and set the frame to 2. And there's our coin texture over there. Now again, I'm going to scale it down to 0.5 because the sprites are a bit too big. Okay, that's the position of the scale. Oops. Okay, go down to the scale and change it to 0.5 and 0.5 and save the scene as coin.tscn. Now what I'm going to do is, just to keep the folder more organized, I'm going to create a folder for the scenes and a new folder for the scripts. I'm going to move coin.tscn into scenes there, and I will also move world.tscn into scenes, and then I'll move player.gd into scripts. Okay, now I have this coin scene, and there's a warning sign next to this, and there's also a warning sign next to my player. Okay, let's see what this says. This node has no shape, so it can't collide or interact with other objects. Consider adding a collision shape 2D or a collision polygon 2D as a child to define its shape. What we're saying is this is just a sprite. It doesn't actually have a shape. It looks like this to us, but to the computer, it doesn't register any shape. So we have to add a node called a collision shape 2D. Type in collision and a collision shape 2D should come up. Add that. And what does this say? A shape must be provided for collision shape 2D to function. So you go to shape, click new rectangle shape, because it needs a shape to work with. So now you can drag it out. Where is it? Where'd it go? Okay, you could just set the extents from here as well. So I'm going to set it to 60 by 60. Okay, that's a bit too big because you generally want the collision shapes to be a bit smaller. So maybe 55 by 55 pixels would work. Yeah, I think that's good. Now, if you notice, if you zoom in, the texture is kind of a bit blurry. It's not that noticeable, but it is a bit blurry. So to fix that, you click spritesheet.png, you choose image, then you click this import tab over here. Go down until you find filter, turn filter off and re-import. And then it should be a bit more clear for both of them. And the blurriness should be gone now. Okay, so we have a coin now. Now how do we add this coin to our world scene? Well, let me just zoom out a bit. And how about if I put the coin right over here? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to open my scenes folder, find coin.tscn. I'm just going to drag it right over here. There you go. Now we have a coin in our scene. If I run the scene, I have a coin over there. Thing is, if I try to collect it, nothing happens. I just go through it. It's not exactly what I wanted. I want to be able to collect it. So to do that, we're obviously going to need to add a script. So click the coin, go to the coin scene, select the coin. Make sure you're in the coin scene and not on this one over here. Then on the coin scene, add a script. You can keep everything the same like you did last time. Make sure it's inside of the scripts folder, not the scene folder. Scripts. There you go. I can close the player script. You don't need that anymore. So now, I already explained what all this stuff does in the last video. So I'm not going to be doing a lot of explaining on extends area 2D and on this next line, physics process. I've already explained this in the last video. Physics process is executed, or it runs 60 times a second. Okay, so now what I'm going to write is var bodies. I'm going to create a new variable called bodies, and I'm going to store, inside of this I'm going to store get underscore overlapping bodies. Now what this does is this will actually store all of the physics bodies that are overlapping with this area inside of an array, and then we can loop through the array and see if that body is a player. But there's actually a much better way to do this. So we could use this function, but we're not going to. What we're going to be doing instead is using something called signals. So now go to the coin scene again, and next to the inspector there's a tab called node. Click that, and then you'll see two tabs, signals and groups. Make sure you're on signals, and then you'll find one called body entered. Double click that, and then make sure make function is on. Select the coin, click connect. What this will do is, as you can see, it added a new function called onCoinBodyEntered into our script. And whenever a body, a physics body, enters inside or collides with our coin, it will call this function and execute whatever code is inside of this function. So what we want to do is, as you can see, it gives us a body, a physics body 2D called body. We want to check if the body's name, body.name, is equal to player. Okay, if the body's name is player, a name is one of the variables that every single node has in Godot. So if the body's name is player, which is a player's name, then what do we want to do? Well, we want to remove this node from the scene. So just do q underscore free, like that. What that does is it removes the node from the scene. And well, let's run the game now and see what happens. Now if I go and try to collect the coin, nothing happened. Does this mean it's not working? Well, our code, there's nothing wrong with the code. We don't actually have a collision shape on our player, so that's why the player is not detecting any collisions. So what we have to do is add a collision shape. Control A, choose collision shape 2D, add, make it a rectangle again, new rectangle shape 2D, and I'm gonna set its extents to 55 or 60 by 60 is good. 60 by 60. Now if I run the scene again, clicking F6, then if I select the coin or touch a coin, the coin disappears. That's great, but now our player is just sitting there looking at us and blinking. We need to add more coins that the player can connect. Or collect, sorry. How do we do that? Well, we need to add some sort of timer that let's add some sort of timer that when this timer runs out, then it'll add a new coin and restart the timer. Thing is, how do we add a timer? Well, Godot comes with a really useful node called timer. We can use that, add that. I'm going to call this the coin spawn timer, like that. And now set the wait time to, let's make a new coin spawn every 5 seconds, let's say. or yeah, 5 seconds would work. Set auto start on as well. And then we want to add a script to the world. Okay, so select world, click add script, save it inside of the scripts folder. Scripts there. World.gd. Create. And then what we wanted to do is in the coin spawn timer, go to signals and connect timeout to the world. And as you can see, we have this on coin spawner timeout function. Okay, now what do we do with this function? Well, first I'm going to be creating a new variable called coin scene. Coin underscore scene. Okay, and then I'm going to write a colon, and I'm going to write packed scene. Now what this colon does is the colon allows us to tell Godot what type of node or value is stored inside of this variable coin scene. So if it's a number, we can write int for integer. If it's a kinematic body 2D, we can write kinematic body 2D. In this case, we want a packed scene, which is just a scene. Okay, so we're going to write export var packed scene. Then in the world inspector, we should have this thing called coin scene. Drag your coin.tscn scene into the coin scene variable in the inspector. Now back to scripts. What we want to do is when the coin spawn timer runs out, then let's add a child to the world, which will be a coin scene dot instance. So we're just going to be adding a new instance of the coin scene whenever the timer runs out, so every 5 seconds. Let's see if that works. So while we're waiting, I'll just collect this coin over here. And it's up there, but it's spawned, as you can see, on the top over here. But the problem is it's kind of on the top left of the screen. We don't want it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new child node, which will be a node 2D. Okay, and I'll call this coin spawn 1. Okay, and I'll drag this coin spawn 1 node right over here. Okay, and then I'll duplicate that by clicking Control D. Now as you can see, I made a new one called coin spawn 2. I'll drag that over here, or maybe a little variety over there. Maybe Control D again, drag this one, let's say over here. Okay, so now we have 3 different spawn locations for our coins. Maybe a 4th one right over where this one is. And then I'll add this coin as a child of spawn 4. Okay, so now back in our script, what should we do now? If we need to make sure we add it to one of these 4 spawn locations. So let's just add it to spawn 4 for now, just to make sure it's working. So we'll remember this script, it's on our world, not on our coin spawn 4. So how would we access a coin spawn 4 node? Well, we have to actually use a function called get_node to get the node that we want. However, there's a much easier way to do this than write down the function. Just write the $sign, and this will allow us to get any node that we want. So we want to get coin spawn 4. Okay, so write coin, and if you have autocomplete on, it should autocomplete for you coin spawn 4. There it is, coin spawn 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do coin spawn 4.addChild. Instead of adding the child to the world, I'm going to add the child to coin spawn 4. So now if I hit F6, I'll move with arrow keys again. I'll select the coin. Okay, now as you can see, it spawned again in that exact same location when the timer ran out. Just going to wait for it. There it is. Wait for it. There it is. So now, random numbers. We want to add randomness to the coin spawn. We have 3 No, 4. We have 4 spawn locations, and we want it to spawn in one of them. So let's generate a random number, either 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then, what should we do with that number? If the number is 1, then do coin spawn 1. If the number is 2, add it as a child of coin spawn 2. Right? Let's just experiment, dude, with only 4 and 3 right now. Okay, I keep getting notifications. It's annoying, but if there's a function called rand_range. I'll actually store this in a variable. var random underscore num equals rand range in between 1 and 4. Okay, now what the rand range function does is if I control click it to open the docs, it returns a floating point value between from and to. So 0, if I put in 0 and 1, like rand range 0, 1, it'll return a number from 0 to 1. In this case, I want it to be from 1 to 4. Okay? So now what I'll do is I will actually round this number since I want it to be an integer and not a float or a floating point number. So I'm going to round it like this using the round function. So now I'm going to do if we round it and the number was something like 0.2, it'll get rounded down to 0. We don't want it to be 0. So if random num equals to 0, if you're using an if statement and you're using equal, never use 1 equal sign. Because if I do this, that means I'm changing the value of random num to 0. And then this condition will be true. So you always want to have at least 2 equal signs. Some languages even allow you to have 3 equal signs. I'm going to put a call it. If random num is 0, then I'll set it to 1. Because remember, we don't want a 0, we only want a 1, 2, 3, or 4. If the random number is equal to 1, then let's do coin spawn. I'm just going to take 1 and 2 here. If it's 1, then we're going to add it to 4. And I'm just going to copy paste this code real quick here. And now if it's 2, I'm going to add it to coin spawn 3. Okay, so if the random number that we got, which is a rounded number, which is any float in between 1 and 2, then actually we don't need this line. I'm sorry, we don't need this line over here. So we can delete that. So now if the random number is 1, so it returns a float of a random number in between 1 and 2. So it'll round that up, so we'll either get 1 and 2. If it's 1, then we'll add a child, the coin, to coin spawn location number 4, which is this one over here. Otherwise, we'll add it to coin spawn location number 3. Let's see if that works. Gonna select this. Okay, another one spawned there. Interesting. It doesn't seem to be spawning on the other one. Oh, it does. Great. It's taking a while to get it, but there you go. It works. So maybe I should increase the timer. I'm not sure. Could increase the timers. So if you want to increase the timer to length, select the timer and increase the wait time to say 10 seconds. I'm also going to add coins to every other one of the spawn points by dragging them onto the spawn points. Like this. Wait. Coin.tsc and drag that onto there. Okay, so now if I run the scene, I can now collect all of these coins with my amazing looking player. It's taking a while. And then every 5 seconds or 10 seconds, the coins should start spawning. There you go, there's another one. Now about the wait time, you should just keep tinkering around. Maybe 10 seconds is a bit too long. You might want to reset it to 5. Not sure. I'm just gonna reset it to 5. Now if I run the game again, the scene, I can collect the coins now. So in this part, we added the assets first off, which made the game look way nicer, and we have a cute blinking player there. We added a coin scene with collectible coins, which randomly spawn around the map every 5 seconds. And now, in the next part, what we're going to be doing is, first off, the player can just go off the screen, which we don't really want that, so we're going to be adding some code to prevent that. Next, what we're going to be doing is adding control, adding the WASD keys as movement as well. In case you want to move using the WASD keys, you could do that in the next video. And also we're going to be adding enemies into the game. And we're going to be using the zombie asset that I provided. Now, it's not the best looking zombie, but it'll work. Okay. So remember, download the sprite sheet, links in the description below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Goodbye.